When I thought about how I find hope and where I find strength, I thought about what was one of the worst and strangely one of the best days of my life. It was like, to quote one of Jason Mraz's songs about life's contradictions, it was like wearing a dress when you're picking up trash. When my phone rang that Thursday afternoon, I knew. The nurse said my mom's blood pressure was low, it was getting lower. And so I hung up the phone. I told the person I was meeting with that I had to go. I mean, I really had to go right now. And so I ran down those 5 flights of stairs from my office. Well, I didn't run down the stairs, really. I walked as fast as I could. When I arrived, I hustled down the nursing home hallway. I whizzed past the residents in their wheelchairs. They were lined up like parked cars on Peachtree Street. When I arrived, her skin was clammy, but it was still warm. Her breasts were shallow. Her eyes were closed. And they fluttered when I said, "Hi, Mom, I'm here." But that day before had been a really good day. The hospice team had told me that my mom had begun the dying process. But that day before, I really defied expectations. As I sat on the side of her bed, she held my hand in hers. It felt kind of sticky, kind of sweaty. Like she knew she was standing on the edge of a cliff, kind of on a precipice. And she looked me straight in the eye. Her eyes were a little glassy. And she said, "I'm sorry I've been such a nincompoop. I wish we had had more time to do more things together. But I want you to know that I'm proud of you. You're the best thing that ever happened to me." And then on the next day, she took her last breath. And there I was, alone in the world. On my side of my small family, my dad was gone. My brother was gone, and that was pretty much it. And now my mom was gone. I came into the world an orphan, and I was, again, an orphan, so to speak. And so I asked myself, where do I find strength? Well, years ago, I'd heard about UUCA from my friend David. It was a fleeting comment from a brief hallway conversation at work, but it stayed with me. And after my mom died, I knew I needed a supportive community beyond my home and my work life. I needed a third home. And a third home UUCA has been. UUCA has enriched my life in ways I could never have imagined. When I walk into this building, into this sanctuary, I feel at home. When I'm with you all, participating in small group ministry, on the belonging team, at soulful suppers, midweek meditation, or as a lay minister, as we're all doing here today, I feel so much. I feel valued. I feel listened to. I feel comforted. I feel held. I feel educated, seen, joyful, inspired, hopeful, and strengthened. But most of all, I feel loved. You know, each week we say the offertory words together to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action we call community. When I think about where I find strength, my strength is really woven from a tapestry of loves. Music is a bright, vibrant thread woven into my tapestry. It fills my heart with joy. It also gives me hope that there are good, decent people in this world who create beautiful music with such rawness and depth that it brings me to tears. I recently discovered the Avett Brothers. You may be familiar with them. If you don't know them, they're an American folk rock band from North Carolina. Their music rolls together a variety of different genres: bluegrass, country, punk, pop, rock. And it creates something that's uniquely their own. I'm particularly moved by a recent song of theirs. It's called "We Are Loved." Now, I won't sing it for you. And for this, you will be grateful. I promise. But to me, this song is really about loving people, not as you wish them to be, but as they are and where they are. And the last verse goes like this: if we are spirit or if we're human, crossing the river or harboring change, if we deny it or if we face it, may we embrace it. We are loved. When I retired from CDC earlier this year, in my departing email, I declared that my retirement goal was to be bad at more things. This was a phrase that I borrowed from the New York Times writer Melissa Kirsch. In her piece, Melissa is learning Mahjong. Now, if you haven't played Mahjong before, and she really talks about it in this piece, it's a hard game. She feels really bad at it. She knows that it's difficult. She's failing. She feels dumb, yet she vows to persist, to continue to be bad. Why? Well, she knows that the simple act of playing together brings people together. It creates moments of joy, and it builds community. And I love how UUCA affords me the opportunity to execute my retirement plan, to be bad at more things, like learning to play the ukulele. Yes. To continue to weave my own tapestry of love and action, to grow stronger in small steps, like doing this homily right now, which is honestly pretty terrifying. But it's really pretty cool and exhilarating. And who knows, maybe if I'm lucky enough to get to do another homily, I'll feel comfortable enough with being bad at things to actually sing that verse from the Avett Brothers song. But for now, y'all should count your blessings. And so may each of us find what brings us hope and strength as we weave our own tapestries of love. Maybe so.
I don't know about anyone else here, but I have found this year to be really stressful so far, really stressful. Most days feel like a barrage of sucker punches, and sometimes I am exhausted by it. The other week, the word I used to describe my experience with everything, socio-political and personal, was distraught. During our series on revivals, we heard that many of us may be or have been in a place of fear and anxiety, and that that's okay. And it is okay, for a time. Being stuck there is challenging, though, as it can leave us feeling overwhelmed and disempowered. As a therapist trained in dialectical behavior therapy, I often fall back on DBT skills to help me get through distressing moments. One of the most difficult and powerful skills that we have is radical acceptance, which tells us to accept the present moment for exactly what it is and not what we want it to be. The radical part of it is that we do this with our full selves and not only partially. What makes radical acceptance particularly difficult is that we need to accept a situation that we did not choose. As Bishop Marianne Buddy says in her book, How We Learn to Be Brave, accepting what we do not choose invariably means making peace with suffering. You may think this sounds a lot like resignation. And if you hear that, you aren't alone. But Marsha Linehan, the creator of DBT, tells us that radical acceptance allows us choice. She says that when we are faced with something we did not choose, we have 4 options. 1, solve the problem. 2, change how we feel about it. 3, accept it. Or 4, stay miserable. It is a choice. My experience has taught me that if I accept reality, then I have the power to change how I feel. I can find the motivation to act. I can work towards a solution, or even towards change on a large scale. That motivation can look a lot like bravery. And Bishop Buddy says that only when brave individuals choose to start and then persevere does society change. Acceptance is at the root of this perseverance. And I saw a lot of that kind of bravery in recent protests. But I have to warn you, the thing about radical acceptance that makes it challenging is that it isn't a one and done kind of action. We have to repeatedly accept realities that we do not choose over and over and over again. When new atrocities show up, we need to turn our minds and remain on the path of radical acceptance. One of the things that I appreciate about our beloved community here at UUCA is that we have so many ways to turn our acceptance into positive, brave action. Here, we find our strength each week. We support each other and our larger community in so many wonderful ways, big and small. Here, we open our minds to new possibilities, to new ways of acting. I recently heard someone say that there are forms of resistance that haven't been created yet. When we practice radical acceptance, we can create those new paths of resistance. And when we do this, we can realize the thoughts of lesbian British protest singer Grace Petrie in her song, Fixer Upper. I think this world's a fixer-upper, broken in the middle of a salvage yard, and I know it will be hard. All we've got now is each other, and we're overwhelmed and wondering where to start. And yeah, I know it will be hard. Maybe I'm delusional, but I think it'd be beautiful if we could only keep from losing heart. Then we might still have time to build something better from the parts.
Well, here it is. Another long, languid, sweltering, sweltering day in the deep of a Georgia summer. You know, it's that time of year when we open our hearts and take in the goodness of ripe peaches and homegrown tomatoes and late afternoon thunderstorms and the song of cicadas. Even as we're wont to grumble on about all the heat and humidity, in our hearts we know the summer is a really wholesome season. I know it's summer. I see and hear and smell the wonders of summer all around me. And yet, there's a bit of a chill in my veins, a certain tightness in my spirit, and a lingering sense of gloom that's telling me that we have not quite emerged from the darkness of winter. The winter of our discontent. Now, I know the shelter of privilege. The accident of my birth, the year, the country, the family, the body that I was born into, by no merit of my own, has helped to shield me from too much hardship and atrocity. Of course, I've been through times of loss and sorrow, of fearfulness and uncertainty, just as surely all of you have. And yet, perhaps due to my privilege, I'm not sure I can recall a season when so much darkness seemed to just keep coming at me. Ever since that guy in Project 2025 took over the White House back in January, I know that collectively all of us, UUs, have been living through the trauma of an unmitigated assault on our values. I know that has hit some of us harder than others. Perhaps it hit you harder because of your own or your loved one's gender identity, immigration status, health status, your place of employment. We feel you and we lift you up. My heart goes out to each and every one whose heart aches and whose nerves are set on fire by the injustices that we're witnessing. My world has become a maelstrom since all this started. I'm a senior leader at a large nonprofit organization that for decades has partnered with communities and with the federal government to welcome and often offer services to refugees and asylum seekers and migrants to help them rebuild their lives in this country. These days, our mission and work are under attack. Let me try to illustrate. On his first day in office, the president signed an order to halt all refugee resettlement to the United States and immediately canceled flights of thousands, leaving them stranded overseas and disrupting our work in 30 US cities. By March, for the first time in 45 years straight without interruption, we no longer had a single active newly arrived refugee case in the whole country. And with our funding frozen, we had to lay off hundreds of our staff. Then, just when we had shuttered this life-saving program, the administration told us to restart it so that we could admit white South African landowners as refugees in this country, while all the others had to remain on hold. In our program serving unaccompanied children, vulnerable minors who fled here on their own to seek protection, our federal donor has started compelling us to provide them with sensitive information about their lives that can be used to deport them, even as our federal grants to provide them with legal representation have been stripped away. We've witnessed families from Venezuela, Haiti, Afghanistan, and Ukraine that are enrolled in our services having their lawful status taken away from them by Sharpie stroke, leaving them at immediate risk of detention and deportation. And as if that were not enough, lately we've been receiving menacing letters from the administration suggesting that the very humanitarian services we offer are in fact criminal activities, alleging that we are trafficking in humans and harboring terrorists. These are only a few of the crises and affronts I have faced in these months. It's hard to put in words the magnitude of the anguish that this has caused to all around me. So, you may ask, how do I stay strong through all this? Where do I find hope when hope is hard to find? Where do I look for a rose in the wintertime? For one, I draw on my modest yet trusty spiritual practices. With my head in a whirlwind and my heart afire on a near daily basis, never have I embraced silence as thirstily as in these months, nor has quieting my mind satisfied and calmed me more. I'm reaching more for sacred words, finding poems and readings that focus me on spirit. I'm cultivating relationships with people I can talk to about my spirit. Sometimes a dose of hope comes from slowing down to savor a taste of a juicy peach, or a tomato sandwich, or to listen to the sound of thunder and cicadas from the screen porch. In this time of mayhem, I also strive to follow Fred Rogers' advice and look to the helpers. I take heart in bold actions such as Bishop Beattie imploring the powerful to have mercy. My courage grows when our immigration action team hosts a Know Your Rights workshop to empower and protect our community. I cheer for the plaintiffs who file lawsuits against horrible executive orders and then defend those positions like warriors. My heart soars when district court judges scrupulously apply the law. And then when I read the righteous dissents of Justices Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor. Yes, thank you. Focusing on the helpers keeps me strong. Above all, as I've come to see very clearly at this time, I find strength in my rootedness in my UU values. There is something tremendously empowering about the simple fact of having moral clarity. Some people seem to have lost their moral compass lately, but I'm having no crisis of faith, no wavering of my convictions. To the contrary, I stand tall and firm, knowing what my principles are. And as a UU, I have faith and deep conviction in them, which is a profound source of strength to me. I know who I am, and I know who we are. May we all find strength and hope in a rose when we need it most.